Let's talk about pressure, specifically the pressure we put on Sunday mornings. As pastors, we work, and I know this, tirelessly all week, heading for Sunday, especially for that sermon if you're a preacher. I mean, you have prepared, you've prayed over it, you delivered it with passion, and then by Monday, the momentum feels like it is completely gone. And by Wednesday, most people can't even recall the main point. I mean, by Saturday, they're just waiting for the next service to get filled up again and for the whole cycle to repeat itself. Well, honestly, some of them, right? A lot of church people attend one point, whatever, 5 times a month is the average. So perhaps you'll see them again, next week or maybe next month. That's a lot of pressure to put on one gathering. This presents so many problems for us. When Sunday becomes the whole plan for discipleship, you know what we do? We end up wasting 6 days every single week. I mean, I know we would never do this. This is an extreme example, but I mean, imagine feeding a child one meal on Sunday and then saying, see you next week. I mean, the child would not thrive. Well, neither do disciples when that is the rhythm. Jesus never really called us to host services. He called us to go and make disciples. And going implies movement, leaving where you are to meet people where they are. The early church struggled with this, right? They got kind of stuck in Jerusalem, and which is why God, I think, recruited Paul. Super type A, he'll get out there. And here we are, right, 2,000 years later, and in a way, still falling into a version of the same trap, acting as if Sunday morning is God's channel, and it's the only channel that He's given us. Several decades ago, churches offered, and I went to these churches, right? I went to one of these. Churches offered Sunday nights and Wednesday nights and maybe even Monday night at times. And I don't know, maybe that could still work today, but I do know something that can work for sure. Think about your people's lives, the people who attend your church. There's a lot that they have in common with everybody else's people. They binge podcasts, they scroll through Instagram, they watch YouTube, they read content on their phones. They are surrounded by various channels all week. And discipleship is competing with all of it. So, what's the solution in today's culture? Well, here's kind of the buzzword, but it's an important one. We have to really begin thinking omni-channel, not single channel or one channel. Discipleship really should work the way that people work. It should live the way that people live. And so before you begin to feel overwhelmed by this, because you're like, we're about to talk about what to do for 6 more days. I'm barely keeping up with Sunday. All right. It doesn't necessarily mean a lot more work. In fact, it might not mean hardly any more work. Really, it just means repurposing a little bit smarter. This is where I use something that I heard about a long time ago called the content diamond. If you think about like a diamond on a baseball field, Sunday is kind of home plate, and as you move around the bases, you take what happened on Sunday to each of the bases and you repurpose it at each of those stops. So like super practically, here's kind of how this could look. You start on Sunday and your sermon is the core, it's home plate, and it should be. I mean, the sermon is the thing that we build everything off of. But maybe, step 2, your first stop on the first base is you cut it down and do it in video or audio, but you just take a clip or 2 little segments. You could pull a quote, that's even easier. Grab an application point. Maybe somebody took a picture of it on Sunday and you can grab that. And by the way, you can use AI to help you with all of this. You can upload your sermon transcript and ask AI to type this, find 3 of the most memorable quotes or statements from my message for me to use on social media. Use what it gives you. You can, step 3, distribute these in different ways. You could have, I've always thought this is a great idea. What if you had a 10-minute podcast on Thursday? Maybe it was like a Q&A. Maybe it was just, and you know this, like when you write a sermon, you probably leave 20 minutes on the floor because you can't teach for 60. So if you've got a 40-minute sermon and you are teaching, you're going to leave some of this, on the cutting room floor. But what if you picked up some of that and used it for a Thursday Go Deeper podcast? And then what if on Tuesday you dropped another 10-minute podcast where you teased where you're going for the next sermon on Sunday? I mean, it could just be quick reflections, thoughts midweek. It doesn't have to be even done in a podcast studio. I mean, the content is what really matters. I mean, we don't want it to be terrible quality, but again, getting it to your people where they are, that's what really matters. And then the last thing you do, kind of the fourth step, we're kind of rounding back home, but just point everything back. Like every touch point pushes people back into a discipleship journey. It pushes people forward. It encourages, inspires them to take another step, not just to consume more content, but to do something with that content. So, very practical example. Imagine that you preach a sermon on prayer. So on Thursday, you release a short podcast teaser that raises a tension question. Like, why is prayer so hard if God already knows what we need? Like, why do we even pray if God already knows what we need? Maybe you're going to use that in your sermon to create some tension for people to lean in. Well, create a 10-minute podcast on that. Maybe it's a man on the street, or you ask your staff just to give them, give some answers to the question. And again, you're creating curiosity on a Thursday. Then Sunday rolls around. You deliver that full sermon that you've already created some curiosity for. On Tuesday, you post another quick devotional clip. Here's one way to practice prayer today at lunch. Or, for the next 3 days before your feet hit the floor, do this when you wake up. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe it's just a thought of the week. Maybe you push through your app out a quick devo on it, or you text people who have opted in, to receive a devotion or a reflection from it. I mean, again, doesn't have to be hard. And then, suddenly, this is what I love. This is the content diamond. One sermon has become 2, 3, 4, 7, discipleship touch points throughout the week. And so you've gone from this Sunday only to an everyday journey, which is really what discipleship should be. It's how it functions best. And the best part is you're not really having to create a whole lot of new stuff. You're just repurposing what you already have. Yeah, you're creating some things, but you're not creating new content. You're not creating new sermons. You're just taking what you already have and using it in different ways. So here's a challenge for you to consider this week. And again, not overwhelming at all. So a couple of things. One, just take a second and audit your current rhythm. Like, where are people hearing from you outside of Sunday? If you're like most churches, the answer is not a lot of places. And even if you're using maybe Facebook or Facebook groups, Instagram, stories, reels, grid, a podcast, a Sunday feed, you may be doing some things outside of Sunday morning, but are they really intentional? How are they working together? Audit that rhythm. And then the second thing is just pick one of those channels. It could be a new channel for you or an existing one, and use it a little more strategically. So maybe it's Instagram for you. Let's say you're already using Instagram, but you haven't really thought of it as a part of a content diamond. You're just posting stuff on it and trying to get people excited about Sunday. Well, what if for the first Monday and Tuesday and maybe even Wednesday, you posted things about the sermon on Sunday, specific quotes, specific clips, questions that you are pondering from it. Go live on Instagram and talk about something that you've been thinking about on the heels of your sermon on Sunday. That'd be a new way to explore just one channel. And once you do that a couple of times, the next thing you do is you think about how to build a simple rhythm for this. And by the way, you probably have some volunteers that would love to help with this. If you could just take all of the options that we have digitally outside of Sunday morning, right? Think of all the options you have. You could use all of them unstrategically. That's going to be a headache and it's not going to make a lot of progress. Or you could just take 2 of them and get real strategic, get real intentional, and create a couple of smart touch points, discipleship pathway focused touch points during the week. And you'll probably see a huge difference. Because over time, What you'll end up doing is you'll stop wasting those other 6 days. You'll begin to see discipleship move more from an event on Sunday to a journey that can begin on Monday. And you're going to feel a lot less pressure, not just in your day to day, but you're going to feel a lot less pressure to make Sunday carry everything. I mean, listen, I know the pressure that you're carrying. I mean, I have been there, right? But you don't need to do more. You just need to repurpose a little bit smarter. And it has never been easier to do that. Use AI to help, use volunteers to help. You don't have to do it alone. If you want to dig a little deeper into this, I do have some tools that might be able to help you. You can go to gavinadams.com. You'll see there in the top nav, there's a pressure inventory. I think every pastor should take it. It'll help you figure out where you are feeling the most pressure. I also offer these pressure valve sessions, is what we call it. They're a free live conversation. I do them once a month. We take one real topic and bring some real relief to it. So I'd love for you to join me for one of those. Again, information is at gavinadams.com. I also offer leadership labs. These are deeper dives. They can be in person, I do a lot of that, or digital leadership labs where we step into the lab, step into a class, and instead of doing a one session conversation, we do 3, 4, 5 sessions and go really deep on a topic. But again, whether you join me ever for anything, just please don't waste those 6 days that we have. Multiply your message. Make discipleship an everyday journey.